Welcome in on a Tuesday, everybody. I'm Reed Cowan. Okay, so countdown to debate and candidate strategy. The eyes of the nation watching Harris versus Trump as two presidential candidates prepare in two very different ways. Plus, we're watching Tropical Storm Francine threatening Texas and Louisiana. You see the rough waters there. We are in those communities getting ready. This is CBS News 24/7. Let's go. But right off the top, our video feeds take us to a story we want to show you. It's a scare that happened at an Atlanta airport. The FAA confirming to CBS News, two planes collided on a tarmac there. So here's what we know at this hour. A Delta Airlines flight taxiing at the Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport shortly after 10 a.m. That's when that Tokyo-bound flight wingtip struck the tail of an Endeavor Air flight. That plane going to Lafayette, Louisiana, by the way. The planes both on alternate taxiways when that collision happened, and you see the result there. Thankfully, no injuries reported at this hour. Also important to note, the airport says not much of an impact to any of their operations there, so close call. Let's move on the map. Our eyes on California and wildfires once again. This look from above giving you the very best view of what firefighters are dealing with there. You see the glow and the smoke on the mountainside. Headline here, wildfires spreading quickly, but we also understand help could be on the way, courtesy of Mother Nature. Coming up, meteorologist Jessica Birch will show you exactly why we are able to say that. First, though, our video monitors and CBS News teams in Philadelphia today as presidential nominees Kamala Harris and Donald Trump make their final preparations for tonight's debate. Harris touched down in the city of brotherly love yesterday, while Donald Trump, he's expected to arrive in the city in just a few hours for what could be one of the only times these two face off against each other on the debate stage. So let's get started. CBS News political reporter Aaron Navarro live in Philly. Aaron, some structure to this debate. Tell us a little bit about the rules that will shape what we see tonight on the debate stage.
Hello, Reed, from the spin room here in Philadelphia. Yeah, just to lay out a couple of the rules that ABC set for tonight's debate. There will be no audience. There will be no opening statements. It'll kind of go straight into the questions from the two moderators, to Trump and Harris. Only moderators can ask questions. In part, that's because the microphone for whose turn it's not to speak will be muted. So you won't be hearing Harris ask Trump a follow-up question or vice versa. And candidates must stay behind the podium. If you can recall some of those 2016 debates where Trump would kind of follow Hillary Clinton around, that will not be the case tonight. The Harris campaign had been pushing for a hot mic situation for tonight's debate, but ABC decided to stay with the rules for the Biden-Trump debate that CNN had in June and keep the microphones muted.
Okay, so let's talk about debate preps. You can only imagine that both candidates are thinking a lot about strategy there. What are they doing to get ready for the debate?
Well, Vice President Harris has been in Pittsburgh on the other side of the Commonwealth for days now prepping. They have gone full out in policy discussions. They have an aide playing the role of Trump, even dressing up like Trump. And they also have full-on studio lights to kind of prepare Harris for this atmosphere. CBS News has also learned, per a source familiar, that Harris has been in touch with former Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton to ask about her experience debating Trump. On the other side, Trump has been having more informal policy discussions. As his team argues, his events, his town hall with Fox last week, is the best way for him to prepare.
Aaron Navarro, CBS News political reporter, we appreciate you so much. So while Donald Trump and Kamala Harris ready themselves for that debate, their running mates, they are busy canvassing the map in key battleground states that really a lot of people say will help decide this election. Democratic VP nominee Governor Tim Walz is in Las Vegas right now. He will then hop a plane over to Phoenix to talk to voters. Also, Republican VP nominee Senator J.D. Vance. He is fundraising in both North Carolina and Pennsylvania today. And we want to let you know, and remember, CBS News 24/7 has full coverage of the debate tonight. Put this on your calendar. Pre-show coverage begins tonight on America Decides, 5 p.m. Eastern. ABC News, they are the hosts of the debate, but you can watch it right here on CBS News 24/7, and then stay with us, of course, for expert political analysis. Our live feeds now giving you a look from Galveston, Texas, about 50 miles outside of Houston. Tropical Storm Francine headed towards Texas and Louisiana. The place you're looking at there, a pier that usually attracts a lot of families for a lot of fun, but right now all you're seeing is some pretty soupy conditions, Jess, and some rough waters there.
We're concerned about storm surge there. We're concerned about heavy rain, with rainfall expected to be anywhere up to around 12 inches just along that coastline. So as we take a look at our map right now in the winds, we're starting to see that hurricane really gain strength just south of Texas as it slowly moves its way up into the Louisiana coastline. Later tonight, it's expected to hit at a Category 1, or it's expected to gain strength at a Category 1 before it hits into Louisiana. So taking a look behind me right now, max winds are still sitting around 65 miles per hour. It is gaining strength though as it hits warmer sea surface temperatures, moving its way slowly to the north, just around 8 miles per hour right now. As we head into the coming days, the big concern about Tropical Storm Francine, soon to be Hurricane Francine, has to do with that storm surge just along the coastline all the way up into Louisiana. And if we could advance this graphic, I'll show you what's happening right around the corner. This track is directly aimed right over New Orleans as we head into the coming days. Wednesday evening, all the way into the 7 o'clock hour, that's when it's anticipated to make landfall, continuing to track north all the way into Mississippi and Louisiana throughout those next couple days. Now let's take a look at Futurecast. This is the storm system that's impacting the coastline of Texas too, with heavy rainfall amounts expected widespread throughout that region. Into the coming days, we can expect anywhere up to around 12 inches of rain in local areas throughout Louisiana as the strengthening storm still continues to move its way closer to there. Storm surge is a big concern too. It was yesterday when we were more concerned about 12 inches just into the region south of Franklin. Now it's looking like it's actually a bit better in that area. And here's what's happening as we head into the coming days for rainfall totals. As mentioned, anywhere up to around 4 to 8 inches on average is expected along that coastline, but it's communities like Houma, for example, where we could see closer to 12 inches. Reed?
Well, Jess, as we track Francine's arrival on the Gulf Coast area, people who live there preparing for the worst, while at the same time doing what we do in these United States, hoping for the best and helping each other out. CBS News national correspondent Dave Malkoff joins us live now from Houma, Louisiana, where Jess just mentioned. Dave, you're about 50 miles outside of New Orleans, and to our point, people helping people there. You see the sandbags.
Reed, just seconds ago, a huge dump truck came here delivering almost 2 tons of this sand. There was no sand left, really, and folks here are carefully filling up each one of these bags. They weigh about, would you say, like 25 pounds each or so?
Yes, sir.
And then where are you taking them?
I'm taking these to this job site right here at the Civic Center, where we're still trying to recover from Hurricane Ida, so we're doing the repairs over here.
Hurricane Ida was 3 years ago, and we're talking to a lot of people here in Houma who are still recovering from that. They still have lots of stuff outside of their house, and they don't have any way to protect that because their garage is full of stuff that they have already been protecting for 3 years from this last hurricane, which was a Category 4, and now we've got a Category 2 coming in. We've got the Coast Guard right here, and they are filling up these bags of sand to go over to their homes because they are actually going to ride this out here. It is a hurricane that you need all the essential services here. We talked to one woman who works in the maternity ward. She worked all the way through Ida. She was delivering babies during Ida. And now she's going to do the whole thing all over again, delivering babies through this one. That will be her shift as a scrub tech at the hospital over there. But Reed, I mean, if you look at these are very, very heavy. Where are these going? These are going to your house?
Yes, sir.
And then they've got their daughter working here a little bit too. They've got people using these half cones, putting the sand through there. People say that may be a little inefficient for folks who are just coming here. You know, maybe people who are, 50, 60 years old and they're trying to just do as much as they can to protect their house. They've been filling it themselves. That's a little harder to use. You need a little teamwork to do that. But Houma is definitely not recovered from Hurricane Ida. And now here we are 3 years later, where we're having another hurricane coming through. And Reed, what I would mention is that coming up in the next hour, we're going to show you what do they do with the animals at the zoos here on the Gulf Coast. What do they do with the penguins who are actually at aquariums here on the Gulf Coast? What do they do when you have a big hurricane coming this way? Well, we went to a zoo and an aquarium here in the Gulf Coast area, right in the path of major hurricanes during this season, where we're right in the peak of it. And we will show you, and Rita will leave you with this, a lion-proof golf cart. You are about to see that in just a little bit, a custom-built lion-proof golf cart, because if a tree comes down, the enclosure's broken, the lion gets out. How do they actually get that lion back into safety?
All right, three things, Dave Malkoff. Number one, that is community and teamwork in action in our country. That's great. Also a master class in bringing a story to life. Thank you so much. Number three, that's one heck of a tease. We'll stay tuned for the lion in this broadcast. All right, when we come back, we want to revisit what happened in Atlanta on the runway. Why did two planes have a collision there? And what's the impact to your travel all over the country? Of course, we know Atlanta is a major hub. Our team's asking a lot of questions there. CBS News 24/7 back after the break. Until then, we'll keep watching the monitors for breaking news. Let's get back to that breaking news coming to us out of Atlanta. The FAA confirms two planes collided on the tarmac, a very busy tarmac at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. And that's where we find CBS News' Jared Eggleston. Jared, give us a breakdown of what we know happened there on the runway.
Reed, good afternoon. Information is slowly trickling in. We do know it happened this morning around 10 a.m., shortly after 10 a.m., and that is when a Delta jet that was headed for Tokyo hit another jet, or clipped, you might say, another jet that was headed for Lafayette, Louisiana. It's important to note that there were no injuries in this incident, but there are a lot of shaken up passengers taking to social media and even talking with us, telling us just the sounds that they heard when those two planes collided. It is important to note the Atlanta airport, as you've mentioned, Reed, very, very busy. Airport officials telling us at this point that there have not been a significant impact to the airport schedule.
Well, we know that's a major hub in our country. We're glad to hear that news, and it looks like nobody was hurt, but what a picture that is. Jared Eggleston, thank you so much. Our video feeds now take us to rural Kentucky, where it is day 3 in a manhunt for a suspect in a series of highway shootings. You can see the video here behind me. Police not having an easy time of things. They are searching rugged cliffs, even some cave areas there for this man, Joseph Couch. He's suspect number 1 in a series of random shootings of drivers and cars Saturday night. In all, 5 people wounded. They are expected to survive. And here's a headline. At 3 o'clock Eastern, we expect to know a lot more. Why? Well, Kentucky State Police are going to hold a news conference to provide an update on that search. So you'll be able to see that here on CBS News 24/7. Our monitors now take us to a somber scene on Capitol Hill. 13 service members killed in Afghanistan, posthumously honored during a congressional gold medal ceremony. House and Senate leaders from both sides of the aisle coming together to be with these families in this moment of their lives and their story. In fact, we heard this tribute from one of the family members today.
The blank check they signed when they enlisted was cashed in full. Their love for this country was greater than the threats they faced from the enemy. They worked tirelessly to save as many lives as possible. And while their time was cut short, they gave everything they had. A big part of us died with our children on August 26, 2021. But we want everybody to know that ceremonies like this provide a small but meaningful breath on relief in our ongoing journey of grief, reminding us that we raise the best and brightest for this country.
That mother saying a big part of us dies with our children. Lots of feelings there for that ceremony today. In fact, today's ceremony comes just days after the Republican-led House Foreign Affairs Committee released its findings into that Afghanistan withdrawal. The narrative that they have is that the Biden administration mishandled the entire operation. New today, the U.S. imposing new sanctions on Iran's main airline over Tehran supplying missiles to Russia. This comes after Secretary of State Antony Blinken wrapped up the first leg of his European tour, meeting with UK officials to talk about the war in the Middle East and also support for Ukraine. That is when Blinken accused Iran of supplying Russia with missiles to fight Ukraine. In fact, we got a little bit of that. Listen.
For some time, the United States has warned of an additional threat, the provision by Iran of ballistic missiles to Russia for use in Ukraine. We've warned Tehran publicly, we've warned Tehran privately, that taking this step would constitute a dramatic escalation. Dozens of Russian military personnel have been trained in Iran to use the Fata 360 close-range ballistic missile system, which has a maximum range of 75 miles. Russia has now received shipments of these ballistic missiles and will likely use them within weeks in Ukraine. This development and the growing cooperation between Russia and Iran threatens European security and demonstrates how Iran's destabilizing influence reaches far beyond the Middle East.
Blinken will be traveling to Ukraine alongside UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy later this week before heading then to Poland for a solo meeting. Well, staying on the war between Russia and Ukraine, at least 15 drones shot down around Moscow overnight in what officials are calling the second largest attack this month. Ukraine launched more than 140 drones, killing at least one person. In fact, you can see the damage there left behind after the drones set 2 apartment buildings on fire. Now our video monitors take us to the war in the Middle East, and it is another deadly day. The Israeli military says the killing of an American activist in the West Bank last week was likely an indirect and unintentional act. They add she was probably caught in the line of fire when the IDF was aiming at the key instigator of what they're calling a riot there. Protesters who were there said the shooting happened about a half an hour after Palestinian and Israeli forces clashed. Meanwhile, an Israeli airstrike killed 40 along a humanitarian zone of the coast of Gaza. 60 others injured. You see that crater left from that explosive. This is all according to the Gaza Health Ministry, by the way. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Elizabeth Palmer reports Israeli officials there say they were targeting Hamas and militants.
This airstrike happened when most people were asleep, just after midnight. In the pitch dark, rescue crews did their best, combing through the sand to find anyone left alive. When the sun rose, nothing was moving in the huge blast crater. Homes, possessions, whole families were blown away by these airstrikes. People flew, Ayad Madi told reporters. It's indescribable. Body parts. We had to dig our children out from under the sand. The target was inside Al-Mawasi camp, an 8-mile-long strip of beach-turned-tent city, now shelter for more than 500,000 Gazans. Also, says the Israeli military, a densely populated hiding place for Hamas fighters. At the hospital, medical staff examined still shocked survivors and collected the dead. But with no heavy equipment, it's going to take time to dig through the sand and find all the victims. Israel says the strike, which is among the deadliest so far on Al-Mawasi, killed 3 Hamas commanders who'd been directly involved in the October 7th massacre. Reed?
Elizabeth Palmer, thank you. When we come back on CBS News 24/7, we'll take you to the state of California, a live report from one of the largest wildfires, testing the mettle of firefighters there on the West Coast. We'll be right back. It's all hands on deck on the West Coast. Firefighters there across several states race to put out a growing number of major wildfires. In Nevada, the Davis fire not contained at all. And then in California, the airport fire and the line fire spreading resources thin in that entire region. In fact, both states are now under a state of emergency as extreme heat beats down across the region, and especially on firefighters who are doing their level best to get this out. CBS News Los Angeles reporter Rick Montanez has the latest from one of the fires. This is just 5% contained. Set the scene where you are, Rick, and what the firefighters are facing today.
Yeah, Reed, the state's fire department, CAL FIRE, just held their briefing for the morning, and I talked with the fire captain. He says they've made significant progress overnight with aerial attacks. They were able to cool some of the hot spots where this fire was raging yesterday and overnight. It is cooler today, I can tell you, but it is still in the category of extreme heat. So firefighters have that to contend with. Plus, they are forecasting strong canyon winds. So they've issued a red flag warning, dangerous conditions for these firefighters as they continue working on the front lines. The good news is they have more resources, 2,000 firefighting personnel on the front lines right now.
So hard, that fight, and really all summer long. Our thoughts are with all the firefighters and all the people on the run. Okay, so let's bring Jess in to talk about the heat in that region. It is a reality for those who are trying to save the day, Jess.
Especially for the past couple days, Reed. Here's the good news. Within the next couple days, we're going to see a nice cool down in regions close to Palm Springs, stretching all the way over into all of San Bernardino, where we continue to keep a close eye on that surface smoke, not only from the line fire, now close to 26,000 acres, but also the airport fire burning close to around 8,500 acres. There's a lot of air quality alerts in this region right now due to this. All throughout the West Coast, we've been keeping a very close eye, anywhere from Oregon up into Washington and Idaho, too, with fires burning up there. Red flag warnings still in effect this afternoon, as well as plenty of air quality alerts widespread throughout the West Coast. But we continue to keep a close eye, specifically on the south. Areas like San Diego, stretching up into Los Angeles. We have been dealing with some really extreme heat, record-breaking in certain areas. Here, as we turn the page all the way into our Wednesday forecast, notice our heat risk map starts to improve. It happens quick, right around the corner. Tomorrow, the firefighters out there continuing to battle this fire will actually see a lot more improvements. Relative humidity will increase just a little bit, but those temperatures start to decrease significantly, and that is huge news for everybody across the West Coast. Now, looking at the next 6 to 10 days, we'll continue to see below normal conditions widespread from San Diego all the way up into Seattle and everywhere in between. So let's take a look at what's happening for us today. Our daytime highs all throughout that region. Yesterday, Los Angeles was sitting at 101 degrees. Today, 90. So a huge difference already, over a 10-degree jump just within the matter of one day. And we'll continue to keep a close eye on the whole West Coast as we head into the coming days, with that heat slowly but surely coming to an end, Reed.
Okay, thank you so much. From heat in the weather to heat in politics, Jess, let's let you know that when we come back on CBS News 24/7, we'll talk to Olivia Rinaldi, CBS News, also with the Trump camp, seeing what strategy is being laid out as we await Donald Trump's arrival there in Philadelphia for tonight's debate. Welcome back. So the race to the White House is a tight one. This we know. Vice President Kamala Harris holding a razor-thin lead over former President Donald Trump in the polls today. They're both hoping to sway voters in what could be the only presidential debate between the two that is set for tonight in Philadelphia. And that's where we find CBS News campaign reporter Olivia Rinaldi today. So, Olivia, what kind of last-minute advice is Trump getting before he hits the stage?
Yeah, Reed, a lot of anticipation here in Philadelphia, just hours away for this debate. All eyes on Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump, and really how they're preparing heading into tonight. But advisors that I've spoken to in Trump's camp tell me they're imploring him and telling him to focus on policy, to make sure that he's making those distinctions between where Vice President Kamala Harris stands on certain issues like the border, immigration, foreign policy. That's what advisors tell me they're hoping Trump sticks with on message, on policy, on that type of focus. But as we know, it could divulge into perhaps personal attacks. That is something that advisors tell me they've told Trump not to do, not attacking her personally about intelligence or anything of that sort, but instead focusing on the issues. So we expect, a little bit of fanfare tonight from the former president. They tell me he's feeling very locked in, very confident heading into this evening. And as we're looking ahead towards November, you're right, this could be the only time we really see these two face off. It'll be certainly the first time they're facing off with each other, really the first time they're in the room together just one-on-one for this debate. So all eyes on Pennsylvania and in Philadelphia here tonight for this much anticipated debate.
All right, and to our viewers, you can watch right here on CBS News 24/7 starting at 5 o'clock, and then, of course, expert analysis right after the debates. Thank you, Olivia. We appreciate it. So the Trump campaign and RNC members are hosting a pre-debate border and crime press conference call today. What more is to be said about that? We'll continue to ask those questions as well. Meanwhile, House Democrats say they're confident Vice President Harris will perform well during tonight's debate. In fact, they had this to say during their presser earlier.
Make no mistake, Donald Trump has been on a debate stage. He's the most of anybody in modern times. he's going to do what he's going to do, and he's going to speak to his base. But we know that she's going to be ready, and the vice president is going to be ready and polished. I know the vice chair has known her a number of years as well, but we're excited for what we're going to see tonight.
So Republican leaders taking a little bit of a different approach. They zeroed in on election security and called for stricter laws surrounding voter identification. Listen to this.
The SAVE Act is a response to what we deem to be one of the immediate threats, and that is illegals voting. How can we say that? They say it's not really a problem, Democrats say. It's already against federal law. It is against federal law, but so is minors buying alcohol. But we still require identification to do it. We're in an era of razor-thin election margins, right? The polling right now in the presidential is the closest that it's ever been. I don't put much stake in that. I'm convinced Donald Trump's going to win the White House, and I can't wait for it to happen. But it will be decided by a narrow margin if you believe the polls.
So again, CBS News 24/7 has full coverage of that debate tonight. Pre-show coverage on America Decides at 5 p.m. Eastern. ABC News, they host the debate, but you can watch it right here on CBS News 24/7. And then, of course, we have a whole fleet of experts to break down what happened with political analysis. Also, tomorrow we'll be talking about whether polls bump up or down for either candidate based on what you, the voter, hear tonight on that debate stage. Some somber moments at the Pentagon today. Staff and members held an observance ceremony for the victims of the 9/11 attack on that very building 23 years ago. Families of the victims in attendance as several speakers honored their bravery on that tragic day. Listen.
We mourn the loss of the 125 innocent lives who were taken from us here, and we honor their memory with our lasting commitment to ensure that their sacrifice was not in vain. To the survivors and the families affected by the attacks, words often fall short in expressing the depth of our gratitude and our sympathy. Your courage, your strength, and your resilience in the face of unimaginable loss truly inspire all of us. You have shown us the true meaning of perseverance and of fortitude, and it is in your honor that we strive each day to build a safer and stronger nation.
President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris are also expected to be there to pay their respects at the 9/11 memorial in New York City tomorrow. Former President Trump and Senator Vance will also be in New York to attend a 9/11 memorial event. Tropical Storm Francine barreling towards the Gulf Coast. You're looking live right now at a place called, and it's historic, it's called Pleasure Pier in Texas. No pleasure there, only a lot of pain as people try to get ready. Texas Governor Greg Abbott spoke this morning, focusing really on the storm's unpredictability and how that really plays into the safety of thousands of people and preparations ahead of landfall.
The most likely area of landfall will be in Louisiana. And when it makes landfall, it is expected to be at least a Category 1 hurricane. That said, one thing that we've learned is that the predicted pathway of a storm like this doesn't always turn out to be true. As a result, we need to be prepared for the possibility that conditions could change, that could cause the storm to move a little bit further to the west with increased danger to parts of Texas. As we all remember, Beryl took an unexpected pathway. We must be prepared for Francine to also lead to unpredictable pathways as it gets closer to the shore. Everyone along the Texas coast should remain vigilant and tuned into this until the storm passes their particular area.
Meteorologist Jessica Birch joins us now. Jess, how important are these warnings for the people who are on the ground planning their lives in the hours ahead?
Well, the one thing he mentioned, too, is the Texas coast, right? You look at the line of this hurricane that's going to come into Louisiana, you almost forget looking at the coast of Texas because of the direct path. However, Texas is dealing with storm surge, and we're also going to be dealing with heavy rain right around the corner too. So let's gear up and let's talk about that. Right below me, you can see where that hurricane's currently at and where it's tracking. These are the winds, the surface level winds just along that shoreline, cusping the whole area of Texas near Corpus Christi, Galveston, before it even hits Louisiana as we head into the coming days. So let's take a look at where it's at right now. This is still a tropical storm, about to gain enough wind strength to actually turn into a hurricane right around the corner. That's going to happen today. Right now it's tracking north around 8 miles per hour. Current wind speeds close to around 65 miles per hour. It will gain strength to 75 mile per hour winds later tonight, and that's the big concern for us right now. So let's advance this and let's continue to watch this track to the north as we head into Wednesday morning into Wednesday evening. It'll sit around a Category 1 right now. That's when it makes landfall. But we just heard, of course, we're also keeping a very close eye on all that Texas coastline, as storm surge is a big concern for them. But there is low level areas all throughout Louisiana that we're also keeping a close eye on too when it comes to that storm surge. As this continues to move its way in, here's Wednesday just into the 5 o'clock hour. At that point, it's already made a landfall, and it continues to track north into Mississippi and Alabama with a lot of strength and a lot of rain left over to wring out over both states. We head all the way back to Louisiana real fast, though. Areas like New Orleans stretching all the way over into Franklin. We could see anywhere up to around 12 inches when it comes to that storm surge. And now we're talking about total rainfall. As this path moves throughout New Orleans, stretching all the way up into Hattiesburg, we could see ranges anywhere from 6 to 12 inches of rain. So an impressive storm right around the corner, and it's good to be prepared right now, especially as people are starting to evacuate.
Talking about those preparations, of course, not only people, but also animals in that area. When we come back, CBS News 24/7 will make good on that tease by Dave Malkoff. Lions, tigers, and bears, and some reporting that will have you saying, oh my, when we come back. Well, the people of East Timor welcoming Pope Francis to one of the poorest countries in the world. CBS News' Anna Matronga reports the Pope praised the country for keeping their faith during an uphill economic battle.
There's an air of jubilant celebration here in Dili, where hundreds of thousands of people have come from all over the country to celebrate Mass with Pope Francis. Since his arrival in East Timor, the streets have been packed with cheering crowds. About 98% of the population here is Catholic, making this the most Catholic state in the world after the Vatican. It's also one of the poorest, with a birth rate that ranks among the highest in the world. During his homily, the Pope praised the Timorese for having so many children, saying, "You are a young country, and we can see every corner of your land teeming with life." As East Timor moves forward in its economic development, he cautioned the nation not to blindly pursue prosperity at the cost of forgetting the poor. Underneath a seemingly perfect facade, he said, wealth can hide a wretched and cruel reality. The poor go hungry and morality is abandoned. This Mass is the highlight of the Pope's trip to East Timor, and indeed a highlight of his entire trip to Asia and the Pacific, the longest trip of his papacy.
Meanwhile, back in the United States, prayer and preparations. You know, when hurricanes hit coastal cities, people are oftentimes advised to get out, to evacuate. But hurricanes are not just a danger for people. As Texas and Louisiana prepare for Francine to make landfall, CBS News national correspondent Dave Malkoff shows you how these zookeepers prepare to help Gulf Coast animals weather the storm.
This is a drill. Weather Service is reporting hurricane level high winds. All staff shelter in place.
This is the rarely seen Houston Zoo firearms team riding in a custom-made, tiger-proof golf cart.
They're just going to be checking the holding buildings to make sure everything is intact. The animals are still where they're supposed to be.
While most people would run away from hurricanes, Kevin Hodge and his small team stay put.
You never know what is going to happen.
Some have firearms to protect people from big cats, apes, elephants, and rhinos, like 4,000-pound Indy.
Any animal that could cause significant trauma or severely injure or kill a person.
Their goal is to always recapture an animal without harming it or keep it contained in the first place. Take Hurricane Harvey in 2017.
Dumping water, and we have never seen so much water. I believe it was 40 inches or more.
No animals escaped or drowned because many, like the great apes, have moats around them to help manage the floodwater. And the Houston Zoo has made some updates since Harvey, including 24 generators.
It's critical that they have air conditioning. It's critical that the red pandas have air conditioning. And it's critical that our keepers can go in and they have enough light to be able to take care of the animals.
But the closer you get to the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, the more real the danger gets. We're on Galveston Island. See those pyramids back there? That's home to some animals who are not used to tropical storms.
We have to worry about tropical storms and hurricanes here.
Diane Olson cares for the king penguins at Moody Gardens Aquarium in Galveston, one of nearly 700 species here. Did you try to evacuate them one time?
We looked into it with Rita, actually tried to drive some of our venomous snakes and our ocelot to take it up to Houston Zoo, and it took several hours just to get about 10 miles.
So the best thing to do is
So we just decided we are hunkering down.
We do all the rainforest food prep in here. So
Greg Whitaker rode out 4 major storms with Moody Gardens.
technically, we're inside a big glass pyramid, but the pyramid is rated to 140-mile-an-hour winds. As far as I know, we've never had a broken panel.
But during Ike in 2008, water did come inside. Upgraded pumps in the basement now keep water out and bring some in.
It's about 80,000 gallons of natural seawater.
Stockpiling food is also important.
And in the freezer, we've got pallets of frozen fish.
Animals relying on people and their preparation to weather any storm. Dave Malkoff, CBS News, Galveston, Texas.
Let's jump the map to the White House now. President Biden celebrating the University of South Carolina's women's basketball team. They won it all in March, becoming the NCAA champs. A lot of pride in that room. Just moments ago, the president also welcomed the Connecticut men's basketball team, also champs this year.
Hello, hello, hello. Well, let me be the first to say welcome back. I won't be here next year, but you may be. These guys over here have anything to do with it. They're both trouble. Look, it's great to have so many UConn friends and fans here today with us, including Education Secretary Miguel Cardona. You know, Miguel's a slow learner. He has 4 degrees of credentials from UConn. I told him that equals 1 from Delaware. No, only kidding. Only kidding. Don't get mad. He could make the damn basketball team, but there's no doubt he's a Husky through and through, man. And my personal aide, Jacobs, who sits outside the Oval Office, played tennis at UConn. Jake, but you'd think during basketball season he played basketball. It's all he talks about, man. All he talks about. We're also joined by several good friends and members of Congress. Senator Blumenthal is a good friend of my deceased son, Bo, and Senator Murphy. Stand up, guys. Come on. And a former senator from the state of Connecticut, you'd think he had gone to UConn, and a great friend, Chris Dodd. Is Chris here? Shut up, Chris. Shut up. The Dodd Center is at the University of Connecticut, isn't it? Your dad and your... Yeah, well, I tell you what, man. They intimidate you? January 20th, 2020, following the loss to Villanova, Coach Hurley said, quote, "People better get us now. That's all. You better get us now." Damn, Coach, you were right. 4 years later, for the first time in 17 years, there's a back-to-back men's college basketball champions, the UConn Huskies. And I got 2 future Huskies right there going to play in the basketball team, right in the front row here. And for the 6th time in just 25 years, UConn Huskies are atop the men's basketball world again, man. That's pretty cool. It wasn't easy. Last year you started underestimated. The only thing is you only lost 3-star players the previous season in the NBA. People questioned whether or not you had the talent to go back-to-back. I guess they didn't see you guys standing up, man. Oh, although I should note, I picked you guys in my ticket. And this morning I picked the mayor's South Carolina girls. I made a lot of money. That's a joke. Trust, that is a joke. But man, you proved everybody wrong. You were a force, winning the Big East the regular season title, winning the Big East tournament, winning the NCAA tournament games by an average of 23 points. You won those games. But even though you made it look easy, at times, you know, you made a lot of sacrifices. The trust you built in each other, taking the time to the court, knowing every team in America was going after you. Every time you showed up on the court, you're the #1 target. And but you're winners, and winners win. You know that winning takes a lot of work. We know that. Together, you capped off one of the most successful 2-year runs in the history of the sport, ushered in a new era of UConn's men's basketball, passing the likes of Duke and Indiana for all-time national titles. And now there's no doubt at all about who are the blue bloods of basketball. With this team sending 4 players to the NBA draft this year, this university is sending 11 athletes to the Paris Olympics. There's clearly something, you must have something in the water up there, man. I don't know what you all are drinking. Coach, you've said that UConn has been running college basketball for 30 years. With you at the helm, I think they better get ready for another 30.
President Joe Biden celebrating excellence in basketball in the United States, and also maybe staving off a call from the IRS when he made that joke saying, I made a lot of money. Man, he's made that clear. It's just a joke. He does not have to report those winnings at all. It's all hands on deck on the West Coast. Firefighters across several states race to put out a growing number of major wildfires. Look at this. You're seeing the fires there lining up there, with the last one being the line fire. In Nevada, the Davis fire not contained at all. You see the smoke plumes. Then in California, the airport fire and the line fire, spreading resources in that state very thin. Both states now under a state of emergency as extreme heat bears down across the region. One of the #1 enemies of a firefighter during these fights, Jess, the heat, of course, and then wind also.
And those have been the big stories for us recently. It has been extreme heat, especially down in Southern California, where the airport fire is now at 8,500 acres. And we continue to monitor San Bernardino with the line fire continuing to burn, currently around 26,000 acres. Now, as we head into the coming days, the big concern down there also is air quality. There's air quality alerts wide stretch throughout the West Coast, anywhere from Idaho all the way over into Oregon, and of course down into Southern California too. We head back to Southern California though. Today we are dealing with more heat in the forecast from San Diego all the way up into Los Angeles. Tomorrow we turn the page. It is a lot better. So let's actually head to our virtual reality map real fast. Yesterday, Los Angeles was sitting at 101 degrees. Today, we're sitting at 90 degrees. So over a 10-degree difference, and we're continuing to cool down throughout that region throughout the next couple days, which is a very, very beneficial thing for all of our firefighter friends down there in that region, especially all the way up along the Oregon coast over into Idaho too. As we head into the coming days, the whole West Coast is going to get a nice cool down. The Climate Prediction Center is showing below normal conditions throughout the next 6 to 10 days. So we will keep you updated on that too, Reed.
You always do. Jess, thank you so much. That's it for CBS News 24/7. We thank you for watching. It's going to be a very big day here at CBS News 24/7. Make sure to watch our coverage of the debates tonight from Philadelphia. And also, you'll see that expert analysis right after those debates. Thanks for watching.